Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Modern Work Mondays for Retail. I'm your host, Nolan Wheeler, and with me, as always, we have
Jeff Strasser with Microsoft.
So Jeff, we want to talk about single sign-on because we at least here at Sync, we seem to have a bit of a roadblock a lot of times with shared device and devices and device strategies and shared device mode and these types of things. And you were telling me the other day something super cool you're working with. I don't know if that's with a partner and with a number of different groups, but single sign-on in some more creative ways in terms of getting away from the clunkiness of getting to that single sign-on.
Yeah, so we've seen a big change in how retailers are starting to enable their frontline employees access to tools, access to technologies, whether that's in the back office PC or or in a mobile compute scenario in the stores. The biggest change has been moving from what typically was like this is the store device ID and password shared amongst everybody. Obviously, that creates massive security issues when an associate leaves and they still know the username and password, or then they have to change the password and everybody else needs to learn the new one, or heaven forbid it is post-it noted to the monitor, which is a wonderfully secure scenario as well. So we've seen a huge change in migration to individual identities per associate. Super important now when you think about like the onboarding process, right? Hired, you're assigned an identity that it connects into payroll systems, time management systems, employee enterprise social, for or store communications tools and things like that. So that's becoming super important. But now, as there is more mobile compute, the speed and ease of which people are able to sign onto devices affects not only their experience but also the customer experience. You don't want somebody waiting around for passwords and things like that, or complex multi-factor scenarios. And so we've been working with a number of partners, with our engineering teams, and with our customers to enable simpler ways of signing on. If you used like a Windows PC recently, in recent years with technology like Windows Hello for facial recognition or fingerprint recognition, those are great ways. That's a little bit trickier to do on some industry devices. But also, having kind of two factors is super important. So one of the things we've invested in recently is QR code plus PIN. So, right, you may have a QR code on the back of your key card, as an example. So, something you have, something being a PIN.
Badge,
and have that unique identity that you can then sign on to those applications, and then you have the security, the compliance. Kind of meeting more regulatory needs from, tracking user communications and things like that. Again, if you should get in unfortunate, litigation type scenarios where you need to log communications and things like that. So that is all super critical. And so finding ways to make that identity experience simpler, super important, but then also using that platform to sign on, integrate into third-party applications. Again, for all these scenarios, you don't want users having multiple identities per application, different logins, different passwords. It all creates time, creates support and help desk pain, which means cost, which means associates can't get their work done, or they can't support an employee, or there's downtime from the floor because they have to call the help desk. All these costly and timely scenarios. So getting that identity platform right, and one that is part of the onboarding experience for employees, also part of the offboarding experience for employees as they leave, to remove access to things, gives them access to all the tools and the systems that are required for them to access as an employee, and then do their jobs, is really fundamental. So having that strategy in place, modernizing to that consistent platform, really critical, and it's one of the areas we at Microsoft are working pretty intensely on, because that experience is absolutely part of kind of a modern store and store associate and tooling infrastructure.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's a great education for people watching. I mean, all the retailers that we talk to, they've got too many apps on the device. So that's too many passwords and logins, to your point, right? So how do you solve that? Ideally, we get away from that, paradox of all those applications, but we can make it slightly better in the short term with that SSO. Maybe to close this off, I think I saw in a demo, and it might have been, I could be wrong. We'll post it out, but I think it was Blue Fletch, and I think they also had like a NFC plus PIN. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, I think those scenarios work. There are a number of providers that are providing, like Blue Fletch, that are providing a kind of the wrapper around the identity platform. We work with them on the QR pin side of things, kind of providing a consistent launcher experience, shared device experience. Another way to approach it is, if you want to kind of minimize the applications on the device, is use all that integration and deploy, something like Microsoft Teams as a platform, and then applications can plug into Teams. So you have the native kind of communications ability, the employee engagement experience, kind of shift management, but then as you have your unique applications that either you've built or you're buying from other SaaS providers, can plug into the Teams experience. So in kind of using Teams as the the frontline kind of OS platform with all the identity, the compliance, the security around it, and then plugging into that. So it's less to manage, it's consistent user experience. Again, there's modernization work because kind of everyone's gotten to this point through a hodgepodge of legacy stuff. But at some point, you really have to start thinking about the long-term strategy because it becomes unsustainable just to keep bolting on and bolting on.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're not solving here at Sync in terms of that SSO component, but it desperately needs to be solved because so many times sign-on becomes a challenge or a blocker or the reason why you have something that doesn't go as fast as you wish it would because of that sign-on element. So that's a great summary, and maybe we'll bring on an SSO group. Maybe it's BlueFletch or somebody else, but I mean, it's a great conversation to have, and it impacts every retailer out there that have got those mobile devices out there.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, we see you again next week, Jeff. Thanks, man.
Sounds great.